Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Dr. Asatar Bear and my co-teacher here, Leah Schaefer.
Hello, everybody.
Tonight we're going to be talking about the ego. What is the good ego? What is the bad ego? And of course, we like to start with a joke. So there's these two monks, and they're up making breakfast, and they're waiting for their frozen waffles to come up, and so the waffle comes up, and then both monks grab it, and the one monk says to the other monk, "Lego, my ego." Turns out that joke is not funny, nor is it really that deep, but that's the way it goes.
Oh, so funny. I think it's funny.
All right, that's good.
Oh, nice one. Nice one. Yeah, so the main thing, Asatar, that comes up for me with this topic is like I feel like there's a lot of misconception about the true ego versus the false ego. Um
Totally.
and people are just like blanketing them together like as if they're the same thing. They are not. And
Yeah,
so they're like everybody just
comes
refers to
out.
it now as the ego, right? Like the ego. There's
Yeah.
no the false or true, it's just the ego, and that blends them together. And I find it I think it can be very detrimental for a lot of people because the reality is that we need the self. Like we need to be able to have life needs a life to live through.
Mm,
So, um and I
that's a
think
good way to
about
put it.
yeah, and I think about the original ego. The original ego is the original I am, you know? Like
Right.
the original from the absolute into the I-ness, into the consciousness, and from the absolute into consciousness. That's the original I am. That's the
Yeah.
original ego. So like when people just blanket them together, it makes me really upset. I get, I get
Yeah,
super annoyed.
and you get it kind of like this spiritual, new agey kind of humble bragging, where it's like, well, that's ego, and I don't want to get into that, right? That's a negative, or
Mhm.
you can go pretty far with this, and then it's like everything kind of becomes ego, and then you're sort of putting down everything, right? Like you were
Mhm.
you're sitting back and saying, it's all ego, right? So is that helpful? I mean, is that what spirituality is? Like sort of poo-pooing everything? It seems like it sort of strikes a false note, right? Like if we're gonna say something about everything, shouldn't we say everything is good, not everything is sort of bad, right? Like
Right. That's such a good point. Yeah. I like
so
that. I like that.
and you get a kind of self-destructive vibe, where people get very fixated on this annihilation of the ego, this
Yes.
concept. And this is a very old concept in spirituality, right? The idea that we need to really check the ego, right? And really
Yeah.
um, even destroy, right? Annihilate means to
Mm.
destroy, you know. Um,
Yes.
but what are we destroying? What is this, right? I mean, this is why we're talking about it, right? Because it's confusing.
Mhm.
Ego means self. Are we talking about destroying ourselves? Um, no, not really, right? We're talking about uncovering our true selves, knowing who
Yes.
we are, you know.
Yes.
And it's rare that we really know who we are. We are on some level unlimited, perfect, infinite beings.
Yeah.
But we're not really in touch with that, right? We're in touch with our limitation. We're in touch with our imperfection. We're in touch with our
All too
transitory
well.
nature, right? We know that. We were talking about this on our first show. I was just watching our very first show 2 years ago. We started teaching together, and
So
one of the
wild.
things we said at the time is like, if you're not in touch with your limitation, try failing at something. You'll be in
Or
touch with
just try something that's important to you. Just just
it.
do just
Exactly.
do anything pretty much, like,
Do
do
anything. Exactly. You'll see. You'll encounter your limitations very
Oh
quickly.
my god. Do anything out of your comfort zone, and you'll find your
Yeah,
limitation quickly. Yep. I'm
but we're
still
not in touch with
human.
that transcendent, universal, eternal side, right? That's kind of our
Mhm.
problem, you know? We don't
Yeah.
understand how great that aspect of us is, you know? I mean, there is
Yes.
a part of us, each one of us, that is infinite. Wow, right? I mean,
Yeah, and
that's fantastic, you know?
and divine, it's like to take ownership of our own divinity, like,
Yeah,
so somebody said to me once, they're like, "It's not like we're a bunch of godheads walking around all the time. It's more that the divinity is within us, you know? But if I'm always like trying to oppress myself and like my so-called ego, then there's no way I can embody the divine. There's no way that I can take ownership of the divinity within me and completely embody the divinity that I know to be my soul self.
yeah,
Um, and it just, I mean, you miss out on like becoming your fullest expression of self, your fullest potential. Maybe you have different words for it, but I think everybody wants to fulfill their potential in some way. And if you're in total denial that you have any divinity within you and you're just like, "Oh, I'm a humble piece of shit," like, you like, you're not gonna do it. You're not gonna make it, you know?
right. Right. We wanna uplift the human being, you know, but we have to recognize that there is something that is limited, right? There is something that is
Yeah.
false about the ego,
Yes.
right? I mean, the ego when
Yeah.
people are acting out of this, so to say, false ego or small self, they're
Right.
acting out of the worst side of a person, right? I mean,
Yeah.
fear, anger, greed, pride, right? All of these things,
Duality, limitation.
yeah, and the Sufis have a very interesting way of proceeding here, right? I mean, this is our tradition, our lineage, right? We study and teach Sufism, the Sufism of Hazrat Inayat Khan, and heart rhythm meditation, right? There's a method that comes out of this, and the Sufis say, look, yes, it's the case that you are God, and it's also the case that everyone else is God, right? So if you go around saying I'm God, well, then you really risk distorting the ego, right?
You're
But
gonna
if you
get
go
locked
around
up.
acting like all the people that you encounter are God, if you give that kind of
Mhm.
respect to everyone that you meet,
Yeah.
if they are the sacred one being, right?
God,
Well, that's a
could
very
you
different thing, right? That
could you
makes
imagine?
you into a very different kind of person, doesn't it? You know,
Could
and
you
that's
imagine?
what we aspire to, you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard to
I
imagine.
I'm could you imagine a world like that? That would be amazing.
Yeah,
It would
yeah,
it truly would, like, if we started to treat each other and then again, it's like the divinity is within, and so, like, if somebody is blowing up at me or throwing a temper tantrum or something like that, like, I'm not gonna be like, "Well, you're God, so let me just bow down to you," It's not like that. It's more like it's more like to remember them as a friend and to remember them, that the divinity is within them even then.
yeah,
Um, and to try to draw that out, try to draw out the unity again, the harmony again, the beauty again, right?
yeah,
Try to draw out the light and the love, um, to the nth degree
exactly.
because of that trust in who they truly are, not where they're stuck in that moment.
Yeah. We don't want to overlook the limitation, right? We know this person's dealing with limitation just like we are, you know,
Yeah,
and what would it be like to go through life with that kind of outlook, right?
yeah,
We can imagine it, but imagination only really takes us so far, right? We need to have that experience. We need to experience that within ourselves. We need to uncover the truth of who we really are, right? Because,
yeah,
the fact is, a lot of what we know about ourselves isn't really true. It's delusion, it's like we act out of our fears, out of our hopes, you know. We don't really stay much with what is, we deal with what we are afraid might be or what we hope might be, you know. And
Yeah.
that's not a good foundation, right? That leaves us kind of reacting and, reeling in the face of all like life's challenges, And but we have this incredible resource within us that really does know the truth, that holds that container of who we really are, and that is our hearts, right?
Mm.
This is why we do heart rhythm meditation, to strengthen that vessel, to explore the light that it holds, to know who we really are, and to try to manifest that, right? Try to be that, you know. How much
Mm.
of our lives, how much of our frustration comes from we have some sense that we could be different, we could be better, and we're not able
Mhm.
to do that, right? A lot of the time, you know.
Yeah, it's true. It's like, like just last night I had all this like fear coming up in me and I was like, "Oh my God," and it didn't want to let up. It was just like coming through.
Mm,
And what was interesting is like I just discovered I was like, "Oh, like this is like signaling to me how important this thing is to me."
mm,
And I was like, and I can't control it, right? It's like something I don't have control over. Like, I can control small things, but I don't have control over the full outcome of it. And so I was like, I just have to surrender. Like I just have to surrender, like this is important to me. And at the same time, like it's like I was surrendering into the divinity, like knowing that like I can do what I can do, but like I also have to surrender to what's happening. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it
yeah,
felt very much like moving from my limitation and my fear into a space of like harmony of like, oh yeah, like I'm still divinely connected and I'm still divinely held and I should just trust that part of what's happening here.
yeah.
Um
Well, I think
and
that's very
then
profound. When we get into like a lot of the things that we want are things that are hard to get, you know? I mean, like,
yeah.
you're not talking about, "I wanna pick up a pencil," right? I mean, like, you're talking about a
No.
big thing, that and
Yeah.
that has to do with other forces, and when you start wanting something, and if you're honest, then you start seeing, yeah, there's a lot of things that could prevent me from getting that, like, it's
Yeah.
not completely in my control. I mean, let's be
Yes.
honest, right? A lot of things in life are not, I mean, we have an
Yes.
influence, and our influence is often bigger than we think, but, like, we
Right.
don't have control in the sense of, like, that I could pick up the pencil or something, right? So,
Yes.
being aware of that is a very good place to start because it's accurate, right? I mean, that's the fact of the matter, And then if we move toward this energetically and stay in the vulnerability of, like, I want this, and yet I'm not in control of it, where does that take us, right? I mean, like,
Yeah.
does our longing, our desire that comes from our heart have a kind of power and influence of its own, that
Yeah.
can into the world like it does?
Yeah. And it felt like because it felt like I was going from duality back into unity. Like it just felt like, I was in a very heightened state of duality and like with the fear coming up. And then I was going back
Right.
toward the unity, but it was like I was surrendering into the unity. In this particular case, I think sometimes we have to rise up into it, but sometimes it's like we have to surrender into that. It's like it's that feeling of being connected to all things and to like have that kind of fundamental trust. And from there, it's like I'm almost going to be able to make a better life for myself as if like the fear won't be able to get me as well as the depths of unity will be able to perpetuate the most positive outcome.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so
We say, so we're back on this idea that we're not going to have an ego or something, right? I mean, we need our sense of self to go through life,
yes,
and the
yes,
more that we're trying to accomplish in this world, the more ego it's going to take. I mean, let's be honest, right? Like,
yeah,
if you want to accomplish great things, you need to think that you can. I mean,
mhm,
that's what it's going to start with, right? Like,
yeah.
and that's
You
ego,
need a
right?
self. Yeah, you need a sense of self. You need a sense of self, but, like, it's almost like when it's out of balance, when it's too much or too little, then it becomes false ego.
Right,
But
right.
right, and it's this self of, like, the ultimate self-realization is God realization. So it's like to realize my own divinity, but then to realize it in self, so to realize it in body. That is then when I'm thriving, that's when I'm then fulfilling my potentials to the utmost, and you have to have a good vessel. It's like there's this great metaphor of even the, most advanced pianist in the entirety of the world would not be able to play a piano that's out of tune.
Mm,
Right. And so we need the vessel, like the artist, like with the capital A, needs a vessel to work through. And we have to tune ourselves up. And so it's like that self is so, so extremely important. And it can go either way, like where it becomes too big or too little. And that's when it's no longer in attunement with the divine and with the realization of connection,
yeah,
and unity.
absolutely, absolutely.
Mm.
Well, let's see if we can try to experience some of this, right? I mean, we could talk about ego and all spiritual
I could just
theory.
keep going.
We just
It's
keep
so
going.
good.
Fascinating, right?
Such good stuff.
A lot of great
Yeah.
stuff in here, right? But like, we have to try to
Yeah.
experience it, I mean, otherwise
Mhm.
it's sort of all just words, right? I mean, as
Yes,
inspiring as that
correct.
can be, hopefully it's
Yes.
inspiring. But, so
Mhm.
let's try it out. Let's get into our meditation posture and sit in a way that is upright, but we want it to be as relaxed as we can be within the context of being upright. When you're upright, your energy is much stronger. You can breathe in a much different way than you can when you're laying down. So, if you need to lay down, do that. Better to do your practice any way you can, right? But it would be best if you could adopt this royal kind of posture, not stiff, but upright. And we want to pay attention to, especially to the chest. A lot of times we get used to this kind of hunching posture, right? Our hearts are hiding in a cave. Right? Allow your chest to open. Allow your chest to be broad, to to really project your energy. And then you tune into your breath. So the practice of heart rhythm meditation, we are trying to really perfect the breath. And this is a journey. So I'm going to give you the steps, and you might only be able to do a few of them. You might only to be able to do one part of it. And if so, that's perfectly okay. It's a journey of a lifetime to perfect the breath. Now, what do we mean by this? We mean to make the breath deep, to make the breath slow, to make the breath rhythmic, to make the breath heart centered, and to make the breath full. All of these different elements. So start by working on making the breath deep. That means that as we inhale, we're allowing the belly to expand. And as we exhale, we are contracting the belly. This is a very natural form of breathing. This is called diaphragmatic breathing or abdominal breathing. It triggers the nervous system to relax, sometimes called the relaxation response, and lowers the blood pressure and releases hormones which fight stress. something very powerful about changing your breathing to breathe abdominally, even while your body is very upright. When our body is upright, it often puts our breathing high into our chest. When the breath is high in the chest, that is a very different, excuse
Bless
me,
you.
that sends a very different signal to the nervous system. That is associated with a much more active uh, kind of um, much more active part of the nervous system, right? This is the difference between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. So we're just through these two things here, right? We're being upright, projecting our hearts, and yet breathing through the belly. The next step would be to make the breath slow. So extend your breath, breathe in more than you normally do, and breathe out more than you normally do. You can breathe through your belly and have the movement in your belly be very small. Try to make your breath bigger. And that's also going to make your breath slower in the sense that it will take a longer time to complete a breath. And this slows down your whole nervous system. If you stay with it, it will slow down your entire rhythm. You really see this when you go on retreat and meditate all day. Meditate all day for a week. At the end of that, your body has slowed down so much. You go to pick up a pencil and it takes 30 seconds or something. Quite remarkable. There's something so powerful about making the breath slow. You have, for the first time, space within yourself. You'll notice an effect on your thoughts. Your thoughts are less rushing around. Now, it may take time. Your thoughts are used to rushing around after all, right? But it's very powerful. You make your breath slow, and everything within you gets slower. And this is very powerful because we're trying to go within. We're trying to explore the inner world. We're trying to learn who am I really? What is my ego? What is my true ego? What is my real ego? And it's not going to be found in those rushing around thoughts. It's going to be found by going deeply within. It's going to be found in the stillness. Now, the next step, two steps, we're going to work on them together, is to make the breath rhythmic and heart-centered. So to make the breath rhythmic, we make it have the same length on the inhalation as it has on the exhalation. And to make it heart-centered, we use our focus, we use our concentration, we use our mind to focus the breath on your heart. Imagine that your heart is breathing. Imagine that it is your heart that takes in that vital essence, which is the breath. As you breathe in, your heart is taking in energy. As you breathe out, your heart is radiating and expressing energy. Your heart energetically is giving and receiving. Now, to make the breath really rhythmic, we tune into the heartbeat and count the number of beats so that we have the same number on the inhalation as we have on the exhalation. And this can be challenging. Some of you might be able to do it right away. For most of us, it's going to take practice. It's going to take consistent effort. So if you can't do it right away, don't let that trouble you. Like I said, you might only be able to do one of these steps. If you're able to do one, you will receive benefit here. So you might just focus on the part that you can do and see the rest of this as a journey, something to aspire to. If you decide that this practice is for you, I would like you to get to the point where you can breathe in 8 heartbeats and breathe out for 8 heartbeats. That will give you a slow, deep, rhythmic breath. And that breath has a tremendous benefit for your body, for your emotional health, for your whole being. And the last step is to make the breath full. And this step is difficult because it requires that you really squeeze out all of the breath on the exhalation. And then open and breathe all the way in on the inhalation. Now, when you work on the full breath, you will be starting with your belly, but you won't stop there. You will breathe into your belly, and then you will breathe all the way up into your chest. You will breathe the air out from your chest and then all the way out, squeezing your abdominal muscles, squeezing out all of the breath. You will be putting way more work into breathing than you normally do. And your breath will be much bigger, much more powerful. But it will also be very slow. And this is what prevents hyperventilation. You will be taking far fewer breaths per minute than you normally do. Bigger, more powerful breaths, fewer of them. When I started meditating at a young age. I was lucky enough to be raised in this. And it still has taken me many years to really develop and perfect the breath. It is an endless road. But I'll tell you, it is the most worthwhile thing I've ever done. It is a skill that pays such dividends. It's just amazing. So put some effort into really learning how to breathe. Now we want to tune the breath toward uncovering and exploring the true nature of ourselves. So we do this by breathing in and filling our hearts with energy and seeing this energy of the breath as light, as love, as vitality, as truth. Take in that light that is the breath and let it fill your entire being, as if your chest and your entire body was hollow and it is just being absolutely filled with this vital essence of the breath. Let that light shine on every part of you. And just notice what rises to your attention. What becomes conscious? What thoughts, what feelings, what sensations? What happens as you fill your being with the light of your breath? As you breathe out, radiate that light. Send it out into the space around you with your unique energetic signature. Use the breath to explore yourself in the context of the light of truth. And when the breath gets big in this way, it's very easy to begin to sense, to begin to feel that the breath is unlimited. The energy of the breath is infinite. Now identify yourself as the one who breathes. You are the one who breathes this infinite light, this infinite love, this endless truth. That is you. That is what you are filling yourself with on every inhalation. That is what you are projecting, radiating. That is the being that you are carrying. Endless light, endless love, eternal truth. Now we're not denying the reality that we are still limited beings. We have limited bodies, limited minds. That is true as well. We are both the limited and the unlimited. We're both bound in time and space and eternal and infinite. So pay attention to what are the sensations, what are the thoughts, what are the feelings that come to your mind. These are like bubbles rising to the surface. We do not have the expectation that there will be no thought, no feeling, no sensation. This is part of what it means to be human, to have thoughts, feelings, sensations. We move through life and we have experiences. But be in touch with both. If your thoughts get distracted and move toward something that's limited, right, as that will happen, turn your attention back toward that endless light. And don't do this by denying, right? Use the the trick that they teach in improv. You don't say no,
Mm.
you say yes and, right? So you have a thought, yes, and you are still an endless, eternal being. That experience is still there. Connect your thought, connect your feeling, connect your sensation to that infinite aspect of your experience. All right, and when you're ready, then you begin to come out of the experience and
Mm.
turn your consciousness to your surroundings.
God, I haven't done something like that in a long time.
Mm,
It makes such a big difference, Asatar. Thank you so much for guiding us through that.
mm,
Mm. It's like I haven't felt that way. I don't know how long it's been since I felt that way. It really
mm.
makes such a big difference to attune ourselves in that way.
Puts things in
Mm.
perspective, doesn't it? For sure.
It just fills me up, and it's like I become my truest version of myself. It's like I'm in that attunement, in that alignment, and it fills me from the inside.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good. That's exactly what we're looking for here at this practice, right? You want that. You want that sense of like
You helped
this
one
is
person,
me,
Asatar.
on a level that can't be, um, that just can never be taken from you. I mean, it's like whatever happens, right?
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah, so beautiful. Um, yeah, I don't know exactly what to add. I just enjoyed it so much. Um,
That's
this like idea of like feeling the infinite, like feeling I am an infinite being and feeling the infinite my infinite nature like within me again. There's
we
something
need that.
so
We can't be
liberating about
complete.
it.
Yeah, we
What
can't
did you
be
say?
complete without that. And we know it's not true, right? We know on some level that's not, what we see and who we think we are is not real. It's not all there is. It's real, but it's not all that's real. Let's say, right?
It's not all that's real. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not anywhere near what all that is real. Yeah.
It would
Hmm.
be. It's like we go through life knowing only a part. Like if we are a house, all we know is like the weather vane on top of the house, right? And the weather vane is
Yeah.
always in yes, right? Is the wind changes directions and the weather vane changes, and we don't understand that there's a house there. We don't understand that the house has foundations. That it's like there's a part of it that is, that doesn't change really in response to changing winds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. All right. I think we should just get right into it again.
All
So,
right.
unless there's anything else you want to say.
No, I've said enough.
Um, yeah, just to before we begin again, I just want to reiterate again that yourself is extremely important. In fact, it's the most vital part of the infinite life being able to express itself and live through
Mm.
you. Um, and when we have experiences of God realization, then we can have experiences of self realization. And the self
Yeah,
realization can also be called the art of personality, where we are developing every facet of our being, where we are going through every single part of ourselves and finding the keynote to that part of ourselves, finding the access way and the ability to live it. And
yeah,
I think that there's a, it can get frustrating, like there's so many things that we face in our lives, and it can get extremely frustrating to feel how heavy the limitations can become, how heavy the pain can become, right? And we're not trying to spiritually bypass any of that, but we're trying to use our divine inheritance and use our divine connection to be able to make the weight less heavy and be able to integrate our life experiences toward our fullest culmination of ourself. So you are important. And if you're struggling, know that it doesn't mean that you are not divine. It means that you're human, and you very much are just like everybody else. And hopefully this class can give you a few tools for reconnecting with those truer parts of yourself.
absolutely. Well said.
Thank you. So let's go ahead and meditate. Go ahead and stretch a bit. Those that need it, I need it. Need a little stretch. Um, and I just want to kind of jump right back in where we left off. So when you're ready, take your meditation posture, s'il vous plaît. And deepen your breathing. And you want to go into the depths of yourself while you're breathing, and you use your breath to kind of help almost work the clay of your body, helping yourself to open up, helping yourself to become more fully alive. There's such a honoring of yourself that happens even with that deep full breath, and bringing yourself into yourself and activating yourself with the spirit of your breath, the spirit within your breath. Well, there's such an act of love there. And we must honor ourselves if we want to make our home, our body, a place for the divine to reside within. We need to honor ourselves deeply. And you're already doing that right now. But maybe make it conscious with every breath you take. You are an abode, you're a holy vessel, you're an instrument. There will never be music, the type of music that can come through you again. So the music that will come through you is unique to you. And that's the music of your whole life, the art of your whole life. So you are important. You're an important part of the experience of the one life. But we need a lot of power to move through our lives. We need a lot of energy to move through our lives. And the breath is fantastic, but it's not enough. And so let's activate the energy of our heart. So continue to breathe deep, full breath, but start to focus on your heart and really feel the center of your being. The more attention you give your heart, the more energy it's going to start to get. Know your heart, know yourself, listen. In a relationship, one of the main things that a person will need is presence, availability, and presence. That's what you're doing with the relationship with your own heart, and therefore the relationship to your own divinity right now. You're bringing more and more presence inside. And it can take an entire lifetime to know somebody, and it's the same thing with your own heart. It can take a whole lifetime to really know all the rooms, all the cracks, all the corners, all of the energy. All the potential. If you haven't already, begin to breathe in rhythm with your heartbeat. So you have to work on that. We're going to just suggest 8 until you find the perfect rhythm for yourself, because it's a very nice harmonic, and you can easily breathe in rhythm with your heartbeat when it's musical like that. You can feel the 8 beat. And if you can't feel your heartbeat yet, keep listening, keep finding it, because it's definitely there. And you have to reactivate the nerves to be able to feel it. So you have to really try, show yourself that it's important, listen. And then if you can't feel your heartbeat, go ahead and either place your hand over your heart so that you can feel your heartbeat on your palm throughout the entire duration of your breath, and or take the other hand to your wrist in order to find your pulse, which is the echo of your heartbeat. Still tuning up with your center, still finding your center. And begin to breathe rhythmically with your own heart. Full breathing in, complete breathing out. And I want you to pick a name for your heartbeat. So instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I want you to name your heart in this moment something that means the divine to you. A double beat word is the best option because your heart is a love dove. Now, it could be something that means the word God. God is, it's too, you could put that word on your heartbeat, but it's nicer if it's a double beat. Something like I am, or the all is a great option. The all. But if you can't find a word that means God to you, that's a double beat to you, or means the universe to you, omni is a great word, I think. Omni. Then you can use something that's like a proxy. So sometimes there's a prophet or a deity that you find to be a nice proxy to God. So it's like almost like a stepping stone toward that ultimate divinity, toward the all. Again, you can always just do the I am, but you can do something like Isa, which is going to be Jesus in a different language, or Brahman, which is a Sanskrit word for universal life, or Kuan Yin, which is a very divine, feminine compassion energy. But find a word that means divinity to you and place it on your heartbeat. Find that resonance in your heart as if your heart was telling you again and again and again, repeating again and again and again to help your heart remember who who you really are. You want you yourself and your heart to get this into your bones. Like that's how much you want to do this. You want to just keep it going relentlessly. And going deeper and deeper into yourself as you do, going deeper and deeper into your heart as you do. Finding a very sacred intimacy with the one. Now, this is already a lot. Please feel welcome to stay here, but I want to give just one more tool to help us remember our true self, to help us experience God realization. And you would need to keep going, you would need to do this for hours, hours and days. And you can when you love yourself enough. But the addition that I want to offer you is to contemplate a prophet or contemplate someone who to you represents an individual who has come to self realization, who has come to God realization, who has truly embodied the divine through their character, through their personality, through their life. And it can be anyone you want. I'm going to choose Hazrat Inayat Khan. And what you do to contemplate this person is that you try to bring their heart into your heart. So it's like a stepping stone. You try to bring their heart into yours, and you try to feel their heart as your own. Some of you might be wondering how to do that. How you do that is that you think of them and you feel them and you think of their heart. And then you welcome their heart into yours with your breath. And you feel their heart filling your own. And then you feel what it's like to have their heart, or a taste of what it would be like to have that much realization, to have that much presence. It's like a window. You can expand this through your whole system, through your whole body, and maybe even look out their eyes and see if you can see or feel in your heart all the hearts you're connected to, and see if you can now start to see the beauty and the divinity within everything. Beauty and the divinity within the hearts you're closest to. I wish we could keep going, but we're out of time. So just thank yourself and hold your heart now that it's probably grown 1,000-fold. And when you're ready, move your body and open your eyes. Oh, I can't hear you, Asatar.
I had myself muted.
Very quiet.
I said, nice meditation. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
It looks like we're out of time. So we will be back next week. If anyone has questions or themes that you'd like to see us address, um, drop us a comment or get in touch with us on. I'm on Twitter. Leah's on Instagram. You should follow her if you're not already. And if you'd like to support the show, we have a link to the Patreon in the description. And thank you so much for being with us tonight. We'll be back next week.
Thank you, everyone. Mm.